So, we've certainly seen some autocracies rise up as they define their ethnicity against others and their ethnicity. So, how might leaders in democratic societies in Europe uh, best uh, uh, flip that around and challenge that identity politics that are based upon ethnicity?
I think this is a much more profound challenge in Europe because they don't have the history that we have of a society that really defines itself as having begun in a commitment to a set of principles that are not rooted in ethnicity or in race. And Europe has more of a history to push against in this realm. Now, I think it's important for any society to push against its worst self by drawing on its best self, so that if you're trying to figure out how the nations of Central Europe uh, can recover from the turn to autocracy that we've seen them take, they have to look in their own history for that, and they have vibrant, powerful histories to look at. There's a lot for the people of Hungary or Poland to look to in their own national story that can allow them to see how they can be a self-confident nation that is not hostile to outsiders or to ethnic minorities within its community. I don't think that they can borrow wholesale our history and ideals. I just don't. I think we can stand as a set of aspirations that might allow people to see what's possible in a free society when we are at our best, which we're not always. But I think ultimately the solution in France and in Germany and in Poland and in Hungary is going to have to be French and German and Polish and Hungarian, and that's part of the challenge.
Right. Well, along those lines, obviously diversity has been a hallmark of the 21st century, young though it is. So, how do leaders turn this around where they see the diversity is not a threat but an advantage to their country? And here again, I'm talking about Europe in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to start out realistically by seeing some of the ways in which diversity is a source of tension, and it's true. Uh, Diversity can undermine cohesion and trust. It's simply a fact, but it also brings such enormous benefits and advantages to a free society, and allows a society to replenish itself and revitalize itself. So I don't think it's illegitimate for nations in Europe to think hard about what they want the rules to be, to see their growing diversity as something that needs to be managed at some level, but not as something that needs to be seen fundamentally as a threat. Um, it is a fact, and it also can be a source of strength. I think leaders have to be realistic about that, but ultimately also look for ways in which they can integrate immigrants who, after all, have chosen to come to these nations, have looked to them as a place to go, whether that's to escape or whether that's to seek something worth their while. And again, try to look in their own histories for sources of strength that can allow them to make the most of diversity. I, I do think it's important to be realistic about how very hard that is, and not to be too surprised when it runs into obstacles, but also not to give up on the ideal of enabling diversity to make our free societies even stronger.